make. So let me know when you want me to go on. I'll be ready to go on when you ask me.
Uh, just make a quick intro, of our eminent panelist today. And let me formally welcome you, Walt. It's an honor and privilege to introduce Mr. Walter E. Chobin, CEO and Executive Vice President of Electronics Representatives Association, ERA. ERA is a 85 years old international trade organization for professional field sales companies in the global electronics industries, manufacturers who go to the market through representative firms and global distributors. Tobin is an electronics industry veteran with more than 30 years of experience in sales, marketing, and executive management positions. For the last 9 years, he was the corporate vice president of Future Electronics, and prior management positions included 12 years at Pioneer and 15 years at Arrow Electronics. Tobin holds both a BS and an MBA from Boston College and is a former US Army captain. So, with this introduction, and for ESE, Tobin is always supportive and is a good friend. And we met at Electronica's, our Indian pavilion at Electronica.
Right.
And thereafter, we catch up, and we did have a number of cooperation, and that resulted in our Indian participation at EDS, the annual event of ERA. And then we have another equally excited to have with us another eminent personality of Indian electronics industry, Mr. Vinod Sharma, CEO, Deki Electronics Limited. Although Vinodjis don't need any introduction to the Indian audience, let me quickly update our foreign attendees that Mr. Vinod Sharma is a successful entrepreneur with over 25 years of a passionate years in shaping Deki Electronics Limited into a world-class film capacitor manufacturer. Mr. Sharma plays a very active role in the electronics community in India, investing a substantial amount of time and efforts in serving industry associations and representing the Indian electronics industries at several stakeholders' interventions. Mr. Sharma is a keen trainer and consultant. He allocates a part of his time towards enhancing competitive management skills in managers and entrepreneurs around the world. He is a retained expert at CBI, Center for Developing Imports from Developing Countries, Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Netherlands. Welcome to you, sir. Then we have, please join me in welcoming our another eminent personality of Indian electronics industry, Mr. Sanjeev Narayan, founder and director, SES Techniques Manufacturing Private Limited. Mr. Narayan is a technocrat turned highly successful entrepreneur running an electronics and IT industry for over 30 years. He was recently awarded as the Electronics Man of the Year for his contribution to the growth of the electronics industry ecosystem. Welcome to you, sir. With this brief introduction, let me invite our past chairman, Mr. Vinod Sharma, to formally welcome Mr. Tobin, and then we can start probably the presentation by Walt. Over to you, sir.
Thank you very much, Gurmeet, and especially thanks for all the kind words. Thank you for organizing this extremely important discussion today. Walter, we are all very, very keen to listen to you. So I'll be very brief, but I will fail my duties to say I am fully aware that, and I've had first-hand experience with ERA being such a professional, valuable organization. And I, quite frankly, can only sum it up in saying that I don't see a way that any exporter, including myself, if we don't take the help of ERA and try to reach the US market on our own, we would be making a big mistake because the kind of value that ERA adds is tremendous. May I request, I think there's some disturbance on the line. So yeah, somebody else needs to mute themselves. Thank you. Yeah, it's much better now. So Walter, for your information, I would say that in India, we are actually at an extremely important phase in our journey in electronics manufacturing and exports. Of late, we have seen the government of India align its policies very much with the aspirations of manufacturers in India. And not only when I say manufacturers in India, it doesn't have to be Indian manufacturers. It could be multinational companies, large companies, joint venture companies, and small and medium enterprises all put together. So there are several government incentives. A lot of them are financial incentives, and a lot of them are in the areas of making business, doing of business easy and more economical in the country. So given that whole slew of reforms, there is a renewed sort of vigor and energy that all of us in the industry are today coming to work with. We believe that the world is looking for several geopolitical reasons an alternative to our neighbors in China, and we feel that we are definitely one amongst the many options that the world is considering. We hope in India that we are the number one option, and both the government and the industry is trying to make sure that we provide a very conducive business environment for everybody. Having said that, also the cost parameters, which are very important, especially from an electronic component industry, our supply chains are still being built. We have some fantastic EMS companies like Mr. Narayan's himself. We have a reasonable number of component makers. I think we need many more, but I think there is a large enough number which could be a very, very interesting base for customers in America, manufacturers and designers in America to access over here. And I hope that with your association with ERA, we will be able to find a professional, formal way of doing this. So with those words, I would say we're really looking forward to your presentation now, Walter. And after that, I hope we will have enough time to ask you some questions.
Good. Thank you so much. Thank you for the warm welcome and the warm introduction. If I can figure out how to share my content, my content button is not lit up. It looks like I can't share.
Gurmeet, can you take care of that? Somebody in the back office?
The share content button on the bottom is not active. And if somebody has, I sent my presentation.
No.
If somebody wants to put that on, I can talk to it.
No, sure. We are doing that. Vikas. Vikas, can you start the presentation? Yeah, thanks.
Perfect. Oh, that's perfect. Thank you so much. So I appreciate the time. I will have to direct you, I guess, to advance the slides. And again, welcome the opportunity to explain the world of North American electronics and how best, certainly an organization like yourself and members like yourselves can help gain access and penetrate the North American market. Next slide, please. So this is what I'm going to present, a little bit of an update. I think you've already explained a little bit, but I want to understand the role of the ND organization. We'll explain a little bit to you the benefits of a membership at ERA. Again, I'm not trying to sell memberships on the call, but I think it's a good way to gain access to the North American market. Give you a little bit of an update on some upcoming events, and then talk a little bit about EDS. Okay, next slide. So this is the roles. Next slide, please. ERA is a 501c not-for-profit trade association. We've been around since 1935. And our role is to support the activities and programs for reps, distributors, and manufacturers. So we have what we call all three legs of the stool, working together to make sure that the customer is supported with a strong alignment between the manufacturer's reps and the distributors, making sure that the manufacturer up here is happy, and all three parts of the triangle go and support the end customer. So it's pretty simple what we do, and yet it can be very difficult when you try to align the different distributor branches and the different reps, and we'll talk a little bit about how that all works best together. Next slide, please. So here we are as ERA. We started, as I said, in 1935. The reps in North America all started as stocking reps back in the 40s and 50s. The stocking rep concept, I know, is more prevalent still in Europe, perhaps in India, but the North American model, there are very few, if any, stocking reps. No reps stock product. There might be one or two exceptions, but all the stocking reps became non-stocking reps as the world of distribution, the Arrows and the Adnets and DigiKeys and TTIs all really developed tremendous footholds in the market. So the reps don't inventory any product, and they're really non-stocking reps. But if you remember how electronics started, it really started back in the early 50s when Russia put Sputnik up in the air, and that caused really a rush to make things smaller, lighter, not necessarily cheaper, to be able to put products up in space. And again, I'm not a double E, but that really was the beginning. That was really kind of the tipping point, going from electromechanical pneumatic products to electronics back in the late 50s, and the invention of the transistor, the Schottky diode, the invention of the integrated circuit, on and on and on. We have about 600 members. I'll give you a little slide on the membership, but we have a consolidated membership of manufacturers reps, and I'll talk a little bit about what they do. We have about 450 manufacturers reps. We have about 125 manufacturers, and we have about 26 distributors. And I'll show you a slide on who our members are. You can see the entire list of our membership on our website, www.era.org. You don't need to be a member to go in there. And you can see who the members of ERA are. And we are very proud of our membership, very proud of the manufacturers that we have, certainly very proud of our rep network, and obviously the distributors. We have all the big global distributors that are members of ERA. Next slide, please. Can you advance the slide, please? So this is just, back one, I'm sorry. This is a listing of our membership. There's a couple of other industry associations. I'm not knocking them. I just want to let you know as how we fare with other associations you might hear about. But we have far and away close. This needs to be updated. We have over 600 members now, but we have far and away almost twice the number of members of any other trade association here in the industry. Next slide, please. I highlighted some of the major distributors of the industry. You can see that we've got everybody. We've got certainly Rutronic, I know, is big there in Germany. They do have a foothold here in North America, but we have, Arrow, Avnet, DigiKey. Future is not a member, but not yet. But we have, all the TTI family of companies, TTI, Mauser, Sager, Rutronic. We are very proud of the membership that we have. There are also some regional distributors on here and some local distributors, but we're very proud of our distribution footprint. Next slide, please. This happens to be a listing of our manufacturers. Again, there's probably 3 or 4 that we need to add to this, but again, all of our manufacturers are listed on the website. You can see that we represent our organization is focused on electronic components. We're not into security equipment. We're not into video equipment. We're really focused on people that are manufacturing product that go on and around a PC board. We're not really into, some of the products that a Newark might have or an Allied might have really go into a panel or factory automation. We do have some of those, but really our sweet spot is focused on what goes on a PC board, what goes around a PC board. So components, relays, interconnect product, PC boards to a certain point, but this is the kind of sweet spot that ERA can bring to certainly the manufacturers there in India. Next slide, please. We have a few reps. These are non-stocking reps in Europe. So we do have, again, The rep model in Europe is still very much, there's a lot of stocking reps over there. The stocking rep is really a distributor, as you know. They take the ownership of the product, they have to carry the receivable. That's really not the model that model went away 25, 30 years ago in North America. So if you were to engage in reps here in North America, they would be in a non-stocking format. It's not like they're going to give you orders and buy product from you and find customers for it. That's what the distributors do here. The reps would be really focused more on getting designs for your product, getting print position for your product, working in partnership with the distributors that you may franchise, and work on behalf of you as the manufacturer. Next slide, please. So this is the independent manufacturer's rep. So a rep, I won't read all the words, but they're an independent organization. So if I'm a rep here in the Boston area, I might have 5 or 6 people. I represent different manufacturers. I usually get paid only a % of commission on what I sell. I'm not an employee of the manufacturer. I don't have any base salary. You don't have to pay me health benefits. You don't have to pay my T&E, my car, my lunches, my dinners. I get paid strictly as a % of commission on what generally gets sold through your franchise distributors. So the rep and the distributor are not in competition. They're very much in partnership together. The rep helps design the product in with the distributor. The distributor does almost all of the order fulfillment. They manage the orders coming in from the customers. They buy the product from you as the manufacturer. When they ship it to the manufacturer, the rep gives a point of sale report to you as the manufacturer, and then you would calculate the commissions and pay the reps the commissions for those products that get sold into that territory. So they're an independent organization. They do not carry competing lines. So if I was a rep for AVX capacitors, I wouldn't be the rep for Kemet. I wouldn't be the rep for Yageo. I might have competing other lines, but I don't have the same technology. So I wouldn't have another capacitor line. I might have a relay line, a switch line, an interconnect line, a sensor line to do what we call the associated selling. I sell, when I go to the customers, I have 9 or 10 different lines that I'm a rep for, and I'm trying to do a complete sell. So if you're using a capacitor, maybe you can use a switch, maybe you can use a power supply or a relay. So the reps have a broad listing of products. The reps that are members of ERA are all available to you on the ERA website, free. You don't have to be a member of ERA to go in, and I'll talk about the rep locator to see what lines they have. So the rep is an independent organization. They're responsible to go get designs, to go get customers for your product, to go design it in. If I'm a rep in the Boston area, I've been a rep in the Boston area, and I'm not a rep, but I'm just using this as an example. I've been here for 30 years. I know all the customers. I never move. So customers come and go. So if you put me on as a rep for your manufacturing line, I could know right away if I'm taking on one of your, let's say it's a sensor line, or it's a power supply line, or a read relay manufacturing. I know right away where to go design those products in, as opposed to hiring a direct salesperson. You move them from Florida to Boston. I don't know the customers because I've never lived in Boston. Or if I go from Boston to Florida, the rep always stays in the territory. So their strength as an organization is they know the customer base. They know the territory very, very well. That's the independent manufacturer's rep model. Could you go to the next slide, please? And you have copies of these slides, obviously. Feel free, anybody that wants this slide deck, feel free to share it with anybody in your association. But they go and they work design-ins, they talk about pricing, they really work in partnership with the distributors. So if the distributor is selling the product, generally the rep and the distributor would jointly suggest the retail pricing, talk about the supply chain, talk about order fulfillment, how they're going to manage the supply chain, make sure they're not out of any orders. The rep takes almost 0 orders direct. All the orders would go through one of your authorized distributors. We'll talk about distribution in a second, as to how that works. So your rep is going to be over here taking orders direct, because if you takes the order direct, he has to do a credit check on them. He has to manage the receivable. Sometimes there's a high minimum order value. Whereas if the customer already has an account with DigiKey or with TTI, the rep just says you can place your order for this particular product through DigiKey or Mauser or TTI, and the rep is clean and not having to manage all the supply chain of the order management. So again, the key point is the reps are non-stocking reps. They are not going to, if you put a rep on here in North America, they're not going to inventory your product. They're not going to place orders with you. It's a very old model, and it's a big difference in North America from certainly parts of the other parts of the world. Next slide. So this is kind of how it works. You know, you got the OEM customer on the left. A lot of the OEM customers, as you know, outsource manufacturing to EMS, electronic manufacturing services. A lot of them, you know, might go to the distributor for pricing and delivery. The distributors would go to you as a component manufacturer. The component manufacturer may certainly have an alliance with your rep in the market. The rep calls on the OEM customer. The rep and the distributor together are the ones that are calling on the customer. They are working together to service the customer. So they're not very much in competition. The rep gets paid on what the distributor books. If the order goes to the distributor and the rep isn't aware of it, the distributor is still going to get paid because they're not competitors. So that's basically how the industry here in North America works. That may be very different than how it works in Europe or in India, but the reps take very almost no orders direct. Some manufacturers don't use reps. Some manufacturers, you have direct salespeople, have regional managers. That's certainly a model you could look at. Again, those people are on your P&L. You have to pay their base salary, their benefits, their travel, their all that, their training and all that. A rep is, and they don't know the territory if you put them on. A rep is really the best way to go, especially if you're trying to greenfield an operation here in North America. I'm going to pause and see if there's any questions. Okay.
Not yet, Walter, but yeah, maybe you complete the presentation and then we'll come up with a few.
Sure. Thank you. Next slide, please. Keep going. Keep going. Once you, I'm sorry, there's automation here. Just why don't you go through the whole slide. Keep clicking. So that's it. This is the way it works. You know, you've got the manufacturer's rep down here. You've got the distributor branch down here. You've got you as the manufacturer, all working together to make sure that they're all in sync to go call on the customer. So that's what ERA does. ERA is constantly trying to align the distributor branch in Boston or in Florida for your product with your rep in Boston or in Florida to make sure they're in sync, because you as a manufacturer have said, I'm going to have a rep strategy and a channel strategy. You don't want them in competition. You want them all working together and work together to go service the end customer. Next slide, please. This again, once you click through, there's some automation. This again is saying the same thing a little bit differently. Keep clicking through the slide, please. You've got the three legs of the stool. You've got the rep, you've got the manufacturer, you've got the distributor, all working together under the ERA National to go support the end customer. It sounds pretty simple. It can be very difficult to pull off. You know, you've got some reps that don't like the distributor, some distributors don't like the reps, some manufacturers that try to play one against the other, but it can be when it happens, well, it happens really nicely. Next slide. So this is, again, this is what ERA brings to the party. So today you can go into the ERA website and you can look at what we call the rep locator. So if you're looking to put on a rep in Chicago or a rep in Florida or a rep in Texas, you can go in without being a member of ERA and use what we call the rep locator. And what you do is, and it's more than a 2-minute discussion, but you say, hey, I'm looking for reps in Florida. and you can go to the rep locator and you can click on the map and say, I'm looking for reps in Florida. I'm looking for reps that have competence in selling these different product families. You click on the boxes. It then keeps narrowing down the universe, and eventually it will give you a listing of reps in the territory that you picked, in the category, the product, the characteristics of the rep that you picked, and you'll get a list of 10 to 12 rep companies that may be a fit for you in your product family to take on the territory in Florida. You then have to go in, all the links are hyperlinks. You could go in and then click on them and see what other lines they have, what other lines they represent. And that would give you whether or not it's a fit or not, rather than just trying to figure out. If you Google, electronic component reps in Florida, the internet will take you into outer space. This is a very, very good tool. Again, it's a tool that's free. You don't have to be a member of VRA to use it. And you could certainly look and see the different reps. It does require some work on your part to then click on each rep company to see what other lines they have and see if it's a good fit. Where ERA would come in is if you then decided, hey, I found a rep in the US, they look like they're a good fit, I want to engage with them. Well, how do you get the rep to, how do you make that introduction? How do you get the rep to take your call? How do you get the rep to get your email out of the spam folder? Being a member of ERA certainly makes you part of the family, in that when you go to the rep, you could say, hey, we're part of ERA. And if you put a rep on, you probably don't have a rep contract. How are you going to pay the rep? And if you go to your lawyer's going to come up with a contract, since the lawyer works for you, with a contract that's 100% in favor of you and your company, which is what you're paying for. Then you go to the rep with this contract, and it's all tilted to you. Then you spend the next 30, 45, 60 days negotiating terms in and out to make it a little bit more balanced between you and the rep. And the only one that makes money is the attorney. So we have a recommended rep contract that as a member you would get access to, and it's a downloadable Word document that you could take to your attorney and say, hey, I'm going to put these reps. Your attorneys probably have no idea what a manufacturer's rep is. So they would come up with something that's a sales contract. This would tremendously expedite the process of signing a rep in North America by using the ERA rep agreement. We also have something called lines available. So as you are looking in the ERA website at the rep locator, being a member of ERA, we would give you the opportunity to have what we call lines available. So we would list you as a new member, and you say, hey, I'm a new member. I'm India Manufacturing, and I make reed relays, and I'm looking for reps in Florida, Texas, Chicago, and Massachusetts. The members of ERA, the reps, would see that on the ERA website and say, hey, there's a good manufacturer. I'd like to go contact them. So in addition to you reaching out to them on the rep locator, they will be able to reach out. They would see you on this, what we call lines available. We also have many tools available. We have a rep toolkit. We have white papers on how to set up performance reviews, how to evaluate a rep, how to do a quarterly business review, what the regional managers should do. We set up how to make buddy calls between your reps and distributors. It really, again, I'm trying to get through. I know we don't have a lot of time. It really is a very robust proposition for value. As a manufacturer of VRA, a manufacturer member, the annual dues are $1,000 US. So we do a couple of things. We do podcasts. These are free. Again, we do them at 4:00 p.m. Eastern time. So most of you are in bed by that time. But we do podcasts. All the podcasts are all archived on our website. They're free to listen to. So you can go in and they last about an hour. They're only audio. So you'll be able to listen to those. You can go in and see the topics. When the pandemic hit, we really pivoted to podcasts. The next slide. We also pivoted to what we call water cooler calls. And we do these. These are every other Tuesday for about an hour. And we talk about topics that were very near and dear when the pandemic hit and everybody had to go pivot to working from home. Nobody knew how to do this. Everybody was forced to go home. And we, reps didn't know how to do it. What platform do I use? How do I protect my signal? Because I'm not on a secure system that I was in the office. I'm a distributor. What video platform do I use? I never use video. Video technology, as you know, has been around for 30 years, but nobody used it. If you said a year and a half ago, hey, Benoit, let's have a call. I want to have a video call with you. People say, well, that's kind of creepy. Why would you have a video call? But when COVID hit, in a week, the whole world pivoted to video. At least here in North America. Maybe it was different in India. The whole world pivoted. And so, but people didn't know how to do it. People didn't know about background. People didn't know about camera etiquette. People had dogs in the background. People had people walking around. So we talked about a lot of these topics on our water cooler calls. All of these water cooler calls are archived on our website. Again, you don't have to be a member to listen to them. It's free. It's a value that we brought to our membership as part of ERA. Next slide. We're having a conference. We have a conference every year. It's an in-person conference in Austin, Texas. Because of COVID, we pivoted. So we have our our annual conference is going to be virtual. It's going to be starting in a week and a half, February 28th to March 3rd. You can get all the information on the website. Registration is still open. If you want to attend the conference, you could. The content is fantastic. We have over 750 people registered for the conference. Again, it's virtual, and the benefit of the opportunity to network. You'll be able to see all the other attendees of the conference. By the way, if you go to the ERA website, you can see today all the people that are attending, the names of their companies. We don't have email addresses or phone numbers, but you'll be able to see who's coming. It's the who's who of North American electronics is going to be at the conference. All the attendees of the conference, if you see somebody that you wanted to reach out to, you could send them a private message on the conference platform. Again, I'm not trying to sell you registrations of the conference, but this is a real great opportunity to network inside of North America. Again, it's virtual this year. We have it next year. We're going to be back in Austin, Texas in person, hopefully with this COVID well in the rearview mirror. Next slide. This just happens to list some of our sponsors. Again, if you go to the website, you'll see all the sponsors that we have. Next slide, please. We have over 105 sponsors. All the main sponsorships were sold out, so we're very, very blessed to have great support from the industry. This is a cannot miss event in our industry. Next slide, please. EDS. ERA co-runs EDS, so we're one of the managers of the show. We moved the association. We moved the show out to August 30th to September 2nd because of COVID. It's a great value. Again, we encourage people, if you're going to come to EDS, you need to start now getting appointments. It's not a show to come to the show and book orders. You come to the show to meet with reps, meet with distributors, and establish dialogue and establish a relationship, a contractual relationship. We've seen a lot of manufacturers, more so from Asia, that come in and set up the booth in the back, and they're trying to book orders. It's not a show to book orders. It's a show to sign reps and sign distributors. And it's a great value, and it's going to be a little warm in August in Las Vegas, but I think you folks are used to warm weather, so probably won't be anything bad. Next slide, please. I hope I'm using the right word. I think it might be slang, so if it is, I apologize. This is Boston Irish trying to be respectful of your culture. So
yeah, you're spot on.
Good one.
Thank you. That's all I have. I'll take some questions if there are any questions.
Sure. Yeah. While the participants kind of breathe in all that you've given us this evening. Thank you very much for a very, very clear presentation. I see tremendous value for all our members and people in the audience in associating with ERA and with EDS, all the chats that you talked about and being a member. But before that, I would sort of post a grievance to Gurmeet, who's the key host, saying that we should have had this much earlier. This talk with Walter and his team, we should have done it a year ago, you know. But anyway, as we say in India, yeah, better late than never. So here we are. What I will do is I'll kick off with a few questions myself that I have for you, Walter. Hopefully that will set the agenda, and then we still have some time for questions from the floor. And of course, Mr. Sanjeev Narayan has a few questions, I'm sure. So Walter, a couple of questions. I'm going to sum them, put them all together to save some time in asking you these questions. One, of course, you know, that the structure of the reps and the distributors that you mentioned is a fairly unique structure from our perspective. We have stockists in India. We don't have really reps, so to speak. And in India, we have a system where, and I find that also true of Europe or the rest of Asia, where a lot of OEMs like to buy components directly from manufacturers. They have their own vendor development teams, et cetera, et cetera. But I know that the American system can be extremely efficient in some ways. So you might want to touch upon what those advantages that it brings. But more importantly, as you mentioned, we need to align ourselves if we want to sell to that market, to that system. And you very correctly mentioned the details between what role the rep plays and what the distributor plays and how they're beautifully aligned together for us to do good business. My second question is a little more topical for now, which is, do you really see a pull within customers in US trying to look away and look for sources which are not from China? Is that non-China factor truly an important factor, or is it largely a political, something that we read in the news and maybe on the ground it does not really translate into action for a lot of buyers in the US? And third related question, and I will stop with that, is how do you see the electronics manufacturing scenario in the US? Is it growing? What are some of the trends that you would like us to know? I know that you've had some fantastic, you spend a lot of time at, at Future and at Arrow, if I'm not mistaken. So what would be your advice to component manufacturers like ourselves who are trying to look at the US market? So I know it's a whole lot of questions. Just pick the ones that you're comfortable with.
Sure. No, they're great questions. Let me try to respond to them. So customers here in the U.S. Would probably want to buy direct, but they can't. You know, distribution. Having a career in distribution, my whole career prior to joining ERA, I've been CEO for 5 years. The electronic component distribution industry is $100 billion worldwide. And why is it that? Why is it so big? Because customers always need unforecasted demand inside of lead time. So if the lead time to build your product is 12 weeks, all of a sudden they need product in 2 weeks. Well, it takes 12 weeks to make your relay or your switch or whatever you're making. So they come to the distributor, because the distributor obviously pre-buys the product, has the inventory on the shelf, and they buy the product. They might pay a little premium over and above going direct, but they can get the product. You know, the most expensive product that any customer has is the one they can't get. So if you're trying to build something, you can't get the capacitor, like MLCCs are in shortage supply now. Sensors, you know, microprocessors, memory, you know, they've shut down five North American automobile manufacturing plants because they can't get product. We're not building 1.2 million cars a day because you can't get components. So there is a big propensity and a custom that a lot of the OEMs certainly are very much used to buying through distribution. It's not like I have to go to the distributor. The distributors is part of their supply chain. They might try to buy some of their high quantity items direct. So if they use 100,000 pieces a year, they might say, I'm going to buy 80,000 direct, and I'm going to buy 20,000 through the distributor to help even out the peaks and valleys of the supply chain. Because the manufacturers, as you know, they don't build any inventory, build product for inventory. They build to order. So if a customer says, well, I need 20,000 more, I have an unforecasted demand, a customer gave me an order. Hey, I'm sorry, it takes me 12 weeks. So there is a very much a custom that customers are very much comfortable by going to distribution. Certainly, the propensity of buying components other than those that are made in Asia, China specifically, there is an appetite for that because of the tariffs that the previous administration put in effect 2 years ago. I don't think the tariffs are going away under the new president. There is the issue of freight and transit time coming from Asia now because of the boats, because of planes and all that. It's a real problem. So if you have to put product on a boat and it's going to take a month to get it over on boat, then you have to allow for a month of float of inventory. That's your dollars tied up. If you're buying those parts direct, you got 30 days of inventory on a boat. That's real money. So there is an appetite to buy from other manufacturers other than from Asia. And also in line with that, the manufacturers, reps, and distributors are always looking for new products to sell. The distributors are looking for more products to fill out their portfolio. Manufacturers, reps are always looking for new products, new technologies. So there is an appetite. I think the timing is certainly good. And there's also this movement of what we call reshoring, onshoring, whatever you want to call it, of American companies bringing things back into North America, probably not into the U.S., but the largest electronics manufacturing center in North America is in Guadalajara, Mexico. Bigger than any other place. So you're not going to bring the parts back into Boston or into Ohio. I'm generalizing, but they might want to bring them back either into, and not so much Canada. They'll bring them back into Mexico so they have more control, and there's no tariffs with the products coming in from Mexico. It's only on the semiconductor side when they come in from China. So there's a good appetite for reps. If you, as a manufacturer in India, you're looking to put reps on, the ground is fertile for reps to look at other manufacturers, other technologies, from good manufacturers like there are in India. So I think there is an appetite. I think the timing is good. I think certainly with COVID, we're going to come out of COVID probably by the end of the year, maybe not sooner than that. I don't think the travel industry will come back until probably 2022. Maybe some people right now I'm scheduled to go to Vegas, but everybody's really kind of nervous about the variants coming out. But so I think, to answer your question, Bernard, I think there's a good appetite for new manufacturers, a new world coming into North America from certainly the reps and certainly from the distributors. And I think the customers.
Thanks very much, Walter. Yeah, that's certainly very, very optimistic and positive for all of us here. One question that you left out was your expectations from Indian manufacturers and components. And after that, I'd like Mr. Narayan to come in and specifically, talk to you about, especially also the EMS industry.
Sure. So when you go into the rep locator and you find a rep, and you may have already come upon this, and when you have discussions with the rep and there's a fit, they think they want to take on your line, you think you might want to take them on, then there's a discussion about they're going to get paid on what they sell. But there is a discussion about, how are you going to pay them during all the buildup time between when they take the line on? It's probably going to take them at least 6 months before, if you sign them up as a rep today, they're not going to start booking orders tomorrow. It's going to take them a while to bring your products out to their customers, get approved on the print, get quotes in. Then if the project gets funded, then they start booking orders in 3 or 4 months after that. Well, the product doesn't ship until 6-8 weeks because of lead time. and then they get paid on, if it goes to one of your distributors, they're probably looking at 6 to 9 months before they get any money from you as a principal. So there needs to be that discussion about a stipend and how you're going to pay them during that build-up time. And some manufacturers say, well, gee, I can't pay you. We're going to give you, there's a big opportunity here. You really can't expect the rep to go out and sell your line and get paid by his other manufacturers. So there is that sensitive discussion. So be prepared if you get a rep to get into a negotiation about a stipend to help them. Maybe it's a part of what we call MBOs here, management by objectives. If you find a rep that will take your line on for nothing, you're probably going to get nothing. You're going to look at them in 3 months. There's no opportunities. And you got to say, well, I don't have anything. I need an update, Tobin. I need a customer list. And at the end of 4 months, and you've wasted 4 months, you're going to say, hey, Tobin, you've done nothing. I have to fire you. Say, fire me. You haven't paid me anything. But you've lost 6 months. So don't do that. And if you give the rep a little bit of a stipend, then you have a little bit of ownership on the rep, don't you? You can demand things. Hey, I'm paying you $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 a month. I need you to give me reports. I need customer profiles. I need customer lists. And there's that happy medium. The question on EMS, was that the question?
Yeah.
EMS? EMS.
Thank you, Walter. I think your talk has been excellent and very informative for all of us here in India. I can't avoid talking to you on the EMS, though you said that you're not part of the EMS industry. But what would be your suggestions and guidelines as to how the EMS industry can enter the US market? If you could
Well, that's a
guide
great
us on
question.
that.
So you're up against the global EMS guys, the J-Bills, the Flexes, and then you're up against some strong regional guys, Sam Maina, you're up against some strong regional guys in Plexus and Kimball and all that. And then there's local EMS that usually has 1 or 2 customers. As you know, for a lot of the contract manufacturers, the way they gain a customer that's already engaged in their EMS is that they do it on price. And again, I'm generalizing. They do it on price. They get the business, and then they try to, get some additional margin from the manufacturers. If you were to continue to manufacture in India, I think that would be a challenge in that, I think the way, if you're looking to gain access to the market, I would do it through acquisition. There's a lot of local EMS people that might be ripe to be acquired. I think that's the way you would get facilities here in North America. You'd get customers, you'd get people, rather than try to put reps on. Because reps don't really sell EMS.
Okay.
You'd have to put the regional people on, and it would be very expensive.
Okay. So what you're suggesting is acquisition of the smaller EMS companies would be the best strategy.
Again, I've never been an EMS. I've called an EMS my entire career, so I know them from afar. But I know it's a very tough business. The margins are. I know it's a very tough. This big, or this small. It's very. I mean, if you look at J-Bill, if you look at Sam Maina, if you look at Flex, their margins are 6-7 points.
I agree.
It's so, I think the best way would be to some of the regional and small local distributors make twice that in profit.
Agree.
That would be my suggestion.
Okay, I think very valuable inputs.
Yeah,
That's
a very good suggestion.
Let's focus on the component side, which the people, I'm sure.
That's a very good suggestion. And Walter, incidentally, you made the suggestion to the perfect person here, Mr. Narayan himself. He can acquire a few companies. He's used to better margins than that one, but I'm sure he will consider that. Good. I saw that Pankaj Gulati of CDIL was here, our friend.
Yeah, yes, sir. Can I ask a question?
Yes, Pankaj, please. Yeah, because you've been at several EDSs and you're a veteran at this. So
Thank you so much. Well, it was a very informative talk, Walter. Thank you so much. And I did meet you during the last EDS when we were there. I've been attending EDS for probably 8 to 9 EDS shows. So I have a few questions on this. The reps go in and do the design work with the manufacturers, but unfortunately, most of the EMS or the manufacturing is taking place in the Far East. So how does a rep get a benefit if the design is done there, an EVL is put in, the company's manufacturer's name comes in there, I mean, the company manufacturing name comes in there, and the production takes place somewhere in China or Vietnam. So how is that controlled? The second question, I'm sorry, I'll just put up all the questions to you. We already have some distributors in US. I mean, been exporting to US for more than 30 plus years. Now, is it better to find reps through the distributors, or should we go the other way around and find the reps and then ask them to locate the distributors? Thirdly, the distributors tend to stock products, and after some time, there is a request that we've had that, okay, the design is changed, so can you take the products back and exchange or return? So how does that happen? Because in India, it's not easy to move back and forth the products that you exported, bringing it back. There's too much of paperwork, there are too many headaches. So these are the three areas that I thought if you can kindly clarify, it'll help a lot. Thank you. Thanks, Walter.
Sure. So I have another call in 3 minutes, so I'll try to be quick. So first of all, it's a great question. The managing of splits is what we call it here in the US, is a full-time job. If you do the design in one location and the manufacturing, they outsource it to an EMS, and then whether it's in North America, or it goes over to Asia, or it goes to Plexus in Poland or someplace in Eastern Europe, Benchmark in Romania. All the orders go through the distributors. The distributors give the POS to the manufacturer. The manufacturer calculates the POS and gives it back. So the distributor and the rep would both get splits. And the splits might be 50-50. It might be, if I did the design, I'm going to get 70% of the commission, and the fulfillment operation gets 30%. But the reps and the distributors are working together to track the splits worldwide. So especially if it goes to a worldwide distributor, it goes to Arrow, Abnet, Future, they can track it, because the Future branch in Boston needs to get credit from the Future branch in Shanghai or Shenzhen. So they're trying to get the splits, and the rep would benefit from that. So there is a way. There's a full-time program. Every company is able to track splits. Number one, the way the suggested strategy on access. The reps wouldn't help you find the distributors. The reps are local in the market. You would look at the distributors. I would certainly start with a channel strategy, and at the same time start with a rep strategy. They're really almost two different channels. The rep in Boston is not going to tell you, okay, go put on Arrow, because Arrow is not going to be able to give you a franchise in Boston. They want a global franchise, so you have to deal with the head of the distributor, and then with the different reps. And then the issue of returns. When you sign up a distributor as part of their franchise agreement, they're going to want to know about price protection, stock rotation, return privileges, protection from IP, patent infringement. Those are the things. So there would be part of the contract that you engage with the distributor as far as return privileges, and if it doesn't sell, and what right they have, and all that. Okay.
Thank you very much.
I apologize.
I know you got to log out now, but yeah, let me just thank you thanks very much. Has been, as everybody said, very informative, has clarified a lot of stuff, and we will do an internal discussion to see how we can be connected with ERA and with the EDS show.
If there's any of you all have my contact information. If any of you want to have a sidebar one-on-one conversation after this, please feel free to email me directly. There is a time difference, but we can certainly set up one-on-one conversations with any of your individual companies after this. Be more than happy to.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks very much, Walter.
Have a great day. Thank you for your time and your courtesy.
Thanks so much. Thank you, Gurmeet, and the whole team.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Thank you.